What's going on, everybody? We're back again with another video, and in this video I'll be giving you guys 5 reasons why you should own a gun. Now, I have 5 things. Number 1 is going to be, number 1 and 2 in my opinion are equal, but those are the most important reasons to own a firearm or to go buy one. If you don't have one, the rest go down the line. So I'm going to be starting with number 5. So, honestly, before we get to the list, I'll explain. People who don't own firearms, they don't ever really understand why people would own them, right? They're like, why would you need a gun? Why would you need it for? You don't need a gun. You've went this long without a gun. You don't need it, and they don't understand the mindset behind why people own firearms. Now, people own firearms for their different reasons. Everybody has their own reason why they own them. But these are my 5 reasons. And the top 2 are the most essential reasons. So, number 5 on my list is it's fun. Simply, owning a firearm is a fun thing. Shooting them is fun. Just owning them in general. The fun part usually is the shooting, but it's just a fun little hobby, to go out and shoot, go with your friends, have competitions and shit and see who can hit this or whatever, So while it being fun is not the most important reason to own a firearm, it's a reason nonetheless, you know what I'm saying? It's, and everybody can tell you shooting is fun. It's just really fun, period. Even if you don't want to own a gun, you go and shoot a gun, you're like, that's actually fun. It can be very adrenaline pumping, if you shoot a gun that has a good amount of recoil to it. But it can be, and at first it is nerve wracking, but once you do it, it's fun. So, but that's my number 5 is it's simply fun. Number 4 is for sport. Now, that can mean a lot of different things. That could mean 3-gun matches. If you don't know what 3-gun is, it's typically a competition where you have a pistol, a shotgun, and a rifle, and you do different drills and courses. Not even a drill, but more of courses and stuff, and see who's quicker, better, accurate, or whatever it is. I've never done 3-gun, but I've heard about it and seen it. You could also be doing, your, what do they call those things? Like the clay shooting or with the shotgun, the clay or the trap, skeet shooting, whatever you want to call it. You could do, long distance competitions. You can do simply taking a target out and just shooting it. I would consider that under a kind of sport, kind of. But yeah, sport does have a part in the gun owning, culture. Now it is very little, but it does it's fun. You go doing shooting sports and stuff is fun to do. I plan on doing some of them in the future, It's not the main reason I bought a firearm, but it's a reason I could see people making it more fun for themselves, So, yeah, just sport in general, like I said, the 3 guns, all those competition things seem fun, and you could do it like to make money, to win trophies and stuff. Not to make money, I doubt that's even but to win like trophies and awards and medals and stuff. That's pretty cool. And just honestly, to get better at shooting in general, competition is probably one of the best ways to do that. Because they put the pressure on you. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's my number 4, and it's not as bad as it's fun, but it's still not the top. It's most people aren't buying guns for sport, but that is a legitimate reason to own a firearm, So, yeah. Now, my number 3 is hunting. Now, hunting is a lot more useful than the previous two. Um, while I've never been hunting, I do plan on doing it at least once in my life, and it accomplishes a couple of different things, right? It puts food on your table, or it could. It can be fun, right? A lot of people enjoy it. Um, it's one of those things that you can get familiar with the outdoors and stuff, and and it tests your long range or medium range accuracy and stuff, and you're actually taking down a live being, and you learn where to hit the animal, where not to. The you learn a lot from hunting, as far as I see, and I think it's a cool thing to do, and a good thing to learn, just in case shit happens where you might have to rely on stuff like that. While once again, most people are not buying guns for hunting, but you got your crowd that generally are hunters. You got your FUDs out there who probably buy guns for hunting, and that's all they think about is hunting, and that's what they think Second Amendment is. And I did a video on that, so if you haven't watched my explanation what a FUD is, go watch it. And I actually plan on doing another video regarding the topic. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, hunting, very useful, very good skill to learn. It's overall cool to have. And I can see how people would buy a gun for hunting purposes. Not a reason I bought a gun, but it's a thing. Like I said, it's a thing that you can do to enjoy your firearm and owning experience, and it teaches you a lot. It really does, And a couple more things I didn't mention about what it teaches you is when you're hunting and you're out in the wilderness and stuff, you gotta learn. You gotta maintain your firearms, right? Because I hear that when you're in the conditions, weather conditions, stuff, your guns get rust and stuff because of you're near water, like a pond, if you're hunting ducks or something like that. And it'll put more stress on your firearm as far as like rust goes and all that type of stuff. So you really got to keep a good take good care of your stuff, right? And so yeah, overall, hunting does teach you a lot, and I want to do it at least once, no matter what you're hunting, right? So, but that's my number 3. Now down to my number 2. And like I told you, number 1 and number 2 go together like this. But I'll explain why there's a difference. They're essentially kind of the same thing, but not. So my number 2 is personal protection. Now, this is by far the number 1 reason people own firearms or people go and buy firearms, is for personal protection. And that includes home defense, concealed carry, and it's not just you. It's not just your personal protection. It's your protection for the ones you love around you, or even your fellow Americans. If you happen to be out in like a grocery store and somebody decides to go buck wild and go shoot up a store, you got that to protect them. So it's protection of you and others around you, right? And like I said, home defense, concealed carry, anything like that. And the same thing with the way that cops do and the military. They own firearms and guns and weapons to protect themselves, and that's essentially what it's for. And it's some people that don't own firearms might not understand this, but the thing is this, right? The people who think that you don't need a gun, right? They're like, oh, you don't need a gun. I mean, come on. What are you going to do with it? You don't need a gun. Well, you don't need a gun until you need a gun, right? It's that simple. Just like you don't need a fire extinguisher until you need a fire extinguisher, right? It's the same kind of thing, right? Guns, or guns in particular especially, are emergency life-saving equipment, right? They're tools that could help you live and help you protect the ones you love and you yourself, right? And people really, and this is the thing that I see and I notice, right? the ones who say you don't need guns, when you make the argument that what if somebody kicks down your door and tries to kill you, they'll usually say something like, "Oh, you don't, that's not gonna happen. Why do you live somewhere where that's gonna happen?" Or they'll say things um, like if you say, I own a firearm for protection, well, who are you worried about killing you? How many enemies do you have? I mean, why are you? That's not what we're saying, right? You could have no enemies. Example, the children from Sandy Hook Elementary, the children from Uvalde, the high schoolers from Parkland, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. I could go on, and I can go on to a more realistic thing that will happen more likely than a school shooting or a mass shooting. What about the innocent people who get killed, robbed, and shot to death? What about your gas station clerk who gives the money up and still gets murdered and they didn't do anything wrong? What about that kid that in the Bronx a few years back that got stabbed to death because of mistaken identity, and this kid was 14 years old? Did he have enemies? No. But he got mistaken for somebody else, right? So the argument that you gotta have enemies to own a firearm is bullshit, okay? You don't need enemies at all, right? Any shit happens in the real world, right? I know these people who tend to be anti-gun thinks that they're so privileged to live in the United States because compared to some other countries, not a lot of crazy shit goes on here, right? And you will find that the people from these crazy countries will say they are advocates of owning the fire over. They're advocates for the Second Amendment because they understand when shit gets real, having the means to protect yourself in the most effective way possible is very pleasing, right? That's to know that if something bad happens, you at least have a fighting chance, you know? Now, it's no guarantee at all, okay? Don't think because you have a firearm that means you're gonna come out on top or you're not gonna die. No, it's not a guarantee, but is a fighting chance against force that is unwanted, right? That's basically it, right? And if you will never understand why somebody owns a firearm if you have the mindset of you need enemies to own guns, or what are you doing to get people to want to hurt you, because in most cases you do nothing wrong. You know, if you have nice stuff, not firearms, but well, I guess firearms can be one of them, but nice cars, nice whatever, and you could live in a suburban neighborhood where there's no crime, and some criminal will walk in your neighborhood and see that you got a nice Jaguar or whatever, right? Encase your house and kick your door down. And if you don't have the means to protect yourself, you're at their mercy, right? Now, I would say maybe like 8 times out of 10, when somebody's robbing you, they don't want to have to kill you or shoot you. But there are cases where they do it regardless of what happens. So you can't bet your life on that. You know, I don't know about you, but I don't want to be a victim. I don't want to be at the criminal's mercy, right? I want the criminal to know that I'm not fucking around, and you fuck with me, you're fucking with the wrong person, right? So that's basically it. It's like, you gotta, if you're an anti-gunner and you want to understand why people own firearms, you need to educate yourself. And I probably will be coming out with a message to you anti-gunners, and just explaining certain things. But so that's basically my second one, is personal protection. By far the main reason people buy firearms is that reason, and it's a good reason, and that's the only reason you need to be able to own it. You know, before the Supreme Court struck down the whole you got to be this, you got to be a certain person, you got to be doing a certain job to be able to conceal carry is bullshit, right? So I'm glad they struck that down. But all the need and the if somebody asks you why do you need a gun, to protect myself. That's all you need. That's all the only answer you need. That's it. You don't got to go into depth or anything. That's a good enough reason. And it's our right, right? So, but now we're going to go on to number one. Now, number one is very similar to number two, but it takes it a step further, and it addresses something that a lot of people don't even think about. Even some gun owners don't think about this in this way. They only think of their level of gun ownership, and the protection stops there at the personal protection. They don't ever look beyond that, right? And so this number one is going to be talking about something that a lot of people don't think about, but they should think about. It's very important. So number one is, and I wrote it down this way, to have the most effective means to fight off tyranny. Basically, I'm going to shorten that. To be able to defend yourself against a tyrannical force, right? Now I'll explain. Just owning a firearm isn't enough in a tyrannical regime, right? And I'm talking about worst case scenario. I'm not talking about, what we're going through now, which is tyrannical, what they're trying to take our firearms and stuff. But I'm talking about when the government, or not even just government, but let's say a country invades us or anything like that, where it's people are dying, right? It's an active war, right? It's not enough to just own, let's go with, it's not enough to own something like this. Now, shout out to Mark for letting me borrow this. You'll see a review of this, but this is an SD9. His SD9 let me borrow it, so shout out to him. But it's not enough to own a pistol like this, right? When you're talking about fighting a tyrannical force, right? You're going to need more than that, right? So I'll explain. First, before I even tell you what you need, right? Or what I think you need, I'm just going to go into explaining the tyranny and all that, right? Because people don't think about that. So the thing about tyranny is you don't know when it's coming, right? That's why we became independent from the British. They were becoming tyrannical, trying to take over whatever they want. A more modern example, look at Ukraine. Look what Russia is doing to Ukraine. Look at all that shit. That's tyranny, right? They're coming and trying to take over their stuff. They're trying to say, you're doing this or you're not doing that. That's tyranny, right? And they're fighting. And I agree, they should fight. And those are just some examples. But typically what I'm talking about is if our government or another decides to just tell us what we can and can't do by force, right? They're sitting here kicking down your door, telling you to get out, right? They're any crazy situation where a government is overreaching, right? And people are dying, right? Let's say the government orders police officers to kick down doors, drag people out of their homes, and murder them, right? Execute them. Genocide. Let's just say that. Now, I understand some people don't like to think about stuff like that, right? You think, oh, that's not going to happen. But listen to me here. You don't know that, right? Good example. Hitler and his genocide that he did, right? Wiped out damn near a whole race of people. Millions of people. And, they got disarmed before all that, right? And it made it easier for somebody like Hitler to just do whatever he wants, right? If they were armed, if those Jews and all those people were armed, it would not be that easy, right? And you see that in the Russian and Ukraine situation. Not saying that that's going to happen with Putin. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying Putin said he can go in there and do whatever he wants. He gonna take this place, and then the Ukrainians are like, no, the fuck you're not. And now look what's going on. You know, Russia is looking like they're not doing too well. But the thing is, you know, my argument is this, right? Some people like to say, oh, it's not going to happen. First of all, you don't know that. Once again, you do not know that for a fact, right? And if it does happen and you have no means to protect yourself, well, you're fucked. It's that simple. And when you bring up hypotheticals to these people, these anti-gunners or whoever, not even just anti-gunners, there's a lot of gun owners that are like, you know, when you bring up this, they're like, oh man, you're talking about fighting the government. I'm not trying to, no, we're talking about worst case scenario here. And if something like what Hitler did happens in our country and you are unarmed, you're at their mercy. You can't do anything. And it's funny because when you bring up the hypotheticals, they're like, that will never happen here. Because they don't have an argument for if it does. Like, you'll ask them, well, what if it does? And they're not going to say anything. They're going to be like, oh, it's never going to happen here. Because they're so privileged to live here where not a lot of crazy shit happens, like it's some other, compared to other countries relatively, you know what I mean? And they're living so good and stuff, but the moment some shit goes down, they're not prepared, right? So a lot of people don't think about that, but you need to start thinking about that, because if shit goes down like that and you are unarmed, and I'm not talking about, I'm not saying, oh, just have one of these. This is better than nothing, but no. Now I'm going to get into what I think you need, okay, to fight off a tyrannical force. One of these is good for like a concealed carry situation where you might not need something, you know, bigger at the moment. So obviously a pistol's nice, but what you're really going to need is one of these. It could be an AR-15, it could be an AK, it could be anything like this that gives you greater, possibilities and stuff. So, and some people look at it going like this, like, oh, that's too much. Why do you need all that? Well, basically, this gives you the ability to shoot out maybe like 300 yards, 400 yards, right? The projectile that comes out of here does a lot more damage than that pistol round. You can easily be more accurate with something like this. And it's easy to learn how to shoot one of these. And these things are easy to shoot. Very soft recoil, right? So these ARs or AKs or anything like this, a rifle of some sort, I'm not talking about a hunting rifle, but something like this that holds a good amount of capacity. You got 30 rounds in here in each mag, and this gives you the ability to fight more or better than if you were to just have only a pistol, okay? Not only do you need that, you also would need something like this, a plate carrier with, if you don't know, there's hard plates in here. They're steel. Now, I know that some people don't like the steel, but I don't care what plate you have, as long as they can stop bullets, especially rifle rounds. And then you have like mag pouches. I know this is very basic, but something like this, right? That you can have an actual combat loadout, right? And stuff like that. Chest rig would be good too, you know, but you want more force multipliers that way, and you could fight. And the number one thing that would help you a lot is people, right? People are a resource, and you know, you get your friends and family, and you could fight as a unit, as a combat unit. I'm not a combat trained in combat, but I'm just saying you could be more effective at fighting off a tyrannical force, whether that be whatever you want to name it, right? You know, 3 people with one of these in a plate carrier with at least 3 mag pouches is a fighting force, right? And obviously pistols work too, but these are what you're gonna want ideally, okay? And that's all it boils down to. So there's other stuff that it would be very beneficial, but those are like the bare minimum basics. You know, you need a rifle that'll help you do more damage and be more accurate, a plate carrier with some hard plates, or if you want to go with a chest rig but mag pouches so you can carry extra ammunition on you. So I know I'm going into it kind of deep. I might do another video talking about all that, but that's essentially it. You know, people don't think about this type of thing, but listen to me. If you are a gun owner and you're not thinking about why the Second Amendment was written, it was written to protect our right to keep and bear arms, so we could keep our government in check if they were to become tyrannical. That's essentially why the Second Amendment was written. And you know, the more capabilities you have, the better you are off at fighting a tyrannical force. And please don't take this as me just, oh, he's going to shoot and kill the government. He's going to shoot this and kill the police and do that. And I never said that once. I'm saying if a situation arises where our own government is against us, right? That's all I'm saying. So, but that's number one. That's the number one reason why you should own a gun if you don't already have one. And if you already have a gun and it's just a pistol like this, you might want to rethink and go out and get something like this. So, but that's it, y'all. That's my video on the 5 reasons you should own a firearm. So I'll see you on the next video. Please subscribe to Centerfire Podcast. Subscribe to Mark. Thanks again, Mark, for letting me borrow this gun. You will be seeing a review on this gun. So I'll see y'all the next time. Peace.